Take My Shirt, Please is the 13th episode of the 4th season of Cheers. This is, of course, directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and there will be spoilers from now as I discuss various aspects of the episode. And we have two narratives here, one focusing on Sam and one focusing on Norm. And I'm going to go through things chronologically. Sometimes I'll do it by subplot, but with this one I think it's easier to just go through my thoughts chronologically. And it actually starts off with a brilliant opening with Diane walking into Cheers and then asking why she never gets an enthusiastic greeting. I'm playing the scene in my head, the way Norm does. And they say, okay, fine, go back out, come back in, we'll give you an enthusiastic greeting. And she does, she goes out and she comes back in and everybody shouts Norm. And I absolutely love it. I thought it was very, very funny, very entertaining, and probably one of my favourite light-hearted starts to a Cheers episode. And then immediately at the beginning of the next scene, Norm walks in and gets a Norm. And we have one of the parts of the narrative established there. Norm is actually meeting a prospective client. He asks Cliff to not talk because, well, it's Cliff. And Cliff gets a couple of opportunities for validation in this episode. And the first one is in that scene where he tells a joke, a dairy-based joke, and Woody laughs. Woody loves it. Cliff has finally found his audience, which I think is absolutely adorable. We then get the second and the main part of the narrative established where Diane says she's going to be volunteering at a TV auction, and she points out that there are going to be some sports memorabilia there, and they don't have anything from Mayday Malone. So Sam decides he's going to donate an item of clothing, his shirt, of course. And we'll come back to that in a little bit, but the rest of the episode basically deals with that auction and the aftermath. Norm's clients come into the bar. We have Robert Symonds and Frances Bay, and things are very dry. They're not easy people to get on with. They're not very talkative. Norm is not exactly having a great time with them. And what I will say is that the passage of time in this episode is a little bit awkward because we know that Diane was at the auction for 2 hours. We don't know exactly how far into her shift the shirt went up for auction, but a lot happens. She manages to come back, and then the jersey's back again, and it goes back and forth, and it seems like a long time has passed, yet Norm is still in the bar with his clients. So the passage of time in this is a little bit questionable, but it's not enough to make me irritated or anything. It was more just an observation. It seems like the shirt might not be selling very well. It doesn't help that the host called him Sam Maloney, which I thought was very funny, but it ends up selling for $100. And Sam, very excitedly, when Diane comes back from her shift, offers to give more items for the auction, and it's very clear that something's not quite right. And they could have kept it a bit more suspenseful for a little bit, but we do very, very quickly learn that Diane bought the shirt. And she did this because she felt sorry for Sam. She didn't want Sam to go through this without it selling. And Sam is annoyed by that, and he thinks that had they just given it a little bit more time, it would have been bought by somebody, a person with a genuine interest in baseball, in Sam Malone, and he demands that she puts it back up for auction, and this is what happens. And again, with the passage of time, this is, quite a good amount of time is passing. Norm is still there with the clients, which, given how non-communicative they are, that must have been a very tedious meeting. And actually, Norm ends up asking Cliff for help because he thinks if they're not Norm's kind of people, maybe they would be Cliff's kind of people. And Cliff gets his second opportunity for validation, where he goes over to them and starts talking about dairy farming and cows, and they take to him. They are his kind of people, and he goes off on a Cliff tangent, and he gets a chance to shine, and Norm is happy that his clients are opening up, even if it is to Cliff. So everything worked out well for Cliff. Maybe not so much with Sam, because he bought the jersey himself and pretended to be a woman. I don't know why he felt the need to pretend to be a woman, since you can't hear the caller anyway, but nevertheless, that's what he did. And it goes up for auction a third time. And it seems like it wasn't going to sell. And we have this beautiful, beautiful moment that I absolutely love, where Sam puts his arm around Diane. And I'm just such a big Sam and Diane fan. And he decides that he's going to make peace with it. That was his life then. He used to be a baseball star. People are not interested in that now. Fine. And it seems like he's starting to process this. And then the jersey sells. And he has this amazing energy, great performance from Ted Danson, which is always the case, of course. And he's so excited that the jersey has sold. And it seemed a little bit suspicious, but everybody in Cheers confirmed that nobody had picked up the phone, nobody had bought it. It seems like it genuinely had sold. And Sam invites the bidder or the buyer down to Cheers. He can sign it, he can meet the fan. It's as Diane calls it, it's his last desperate grasp at glory. And I think there is definitely a big lesson in this for anybody who is in Sam's position, where you've had, to want for a better phrase, your heyday. Whether that's in a career like Sam's or anything else where you feel like you're not as, I don't want to use the word famous, but I guess that is the right word here for Sam's case, where you're maybe not in the spotlight as much as you used to be. You're not as celebrated as you used to be, but that's okay, because it's just a new chapter, and that's what Diane is trying to get Sam to realise. But obviously with the jersey selling, Sam is no longer willing to try and accept his new chapter. He invites the buyer down, and in walks Bert Simpson, played by Patrick Cronin, and very quickly he reveals that he doesn't care about baseball, and the only reason he bought the shirt is because he was fed up of it repeatedly coming back into the auction, which is fair enough. 3 times it popped up in what we are led to believe is the same evening. Passage of time, very awkward here. But nevertheless, he reveals that he only bought it to stop it appearing, and he gave it back to Sam, and Sam takes Diane into the back office, and he invites her to call him a big dope, which she doesn't, to her credit. And she's just about to say something. Whether she's going to say that, who knows? We don't get the chance to find out, because Sam really starts shouting at her and getting angry, and it's such an outburst. To be honest, I don't love it. I think the performance is brilliant, but I think it would have been a better sign of maturity if that didn't happen. I also don't find it that funny. I think it's unexpected. Well, I think it's unexpected. Maybe other people had predicted it, but I feel like it's a well-executed part of the episode, but it's not what I wanted to see from Sam. I wanted him to not necessarily accept that that part of his life was behind him, but to show this maturity that we've been seeing in Sam over the last few episodes, and basically for the bulk of this season so far. But by kind of flipping his lid like that, it's a bit of a step backwards, but again, maturity is not always linear anyway. So I'm not that bothered by it, but it's not what I personally would have wanted. That being said, the fact that he walks back into the office, says thank you to Diane for this service that she's provided him to allow him this emotional outburst, and she just walks out as if it's exactly what she expected. I just thought that was brilliant. So while I didn't love what happened, I loved what it gave us at the very end. So all things considered, Take My Shirt Please is a brilliant episode with some really great moments, and one that I remembered very well as well from watching the show the first time all of the way through. As soon as I saw the title, I knew exactly which episode this was, and I remembered quite a lot of it very well. Personal highlight is everybody shouting Norm at Diane, which I loved. Yeah, definitely a great episode. Take My Shirt Please is one I'm sure I will always thoroughly enjoy.